What is up, everybody? Happy Thursday, happy Friday Eve. Welcome to episode 17 of the Assets Over Money podcast, brought to you by Rich Hansen and my boy, Kevin Dixon. Kev, how you doing today, brother?
What up?
Yeah,
Hey, man, I can't complain, man. Ain't pushing no daisies. I'm doing all right, man. Got up this morning, right mind, limbs functioning. We doing good.
Yeah, and you got your hat backwards, you know what I mean? So you know it's a good day.
Always, bro.
Yeah, and as you guys see, man, we got a special guest on here, Larry. Larry, how you doing, brother?
Like I said, I'm with Kevin. Listen, I'm moving. It's better than the alternative, so I'm having a great day.
Yeah, and I know you might have found a long lost brother on the screen as well, too, you know?
Dog, my brother's name is Larry for real, and my dad.
That's crazy. Listen, we'll take it. It's a good name. Like I said, it's a good set, and I'm happy to be part of the family.
There you go. Hey, like I told you, we was on the same plantation, man. We was picking that cotton together, bro. Our ancestors.
Doing the hard work. Listen, doing the hard, necessary work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Folks don't know about that, man. But now, man, before we jump in, man, I don't want to take too much time. So, as you guys know or don't know, you're going to learn today. Larry is a freaking tax expert. But before we bring him up here to interrogate him with some questions, really wanted to dive in a little bit to his bio, that we have here. So Larry Dixon, he is a seasoned executive and the chief financial officer of Novapoint, which is a leading tax company. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, where he was an Army football star. Some would even say legend. You didn't hear it from me. Larry's journey into the business world is rooted in his military service as a field artillery officer, where he developed a discipline, leadership, and decision-making under pressure. Larry's career trajectory has been marked by his passion for finance and business operations. With his experience as a CPA, he has worked in various leadership roles where he consistently helped streamline financial systems, improve operational efficiency, and drive growth. As the CFO of Novapoint, Larry is responsible for overseeing all financial aspects of the company, ensuring its continued success and growth in the competitive tax industry. Outside of his professional life, Larry is deeply committed to his family and is an advocate for continuous learning and personal development. He holds a wealth of knowledge about leadership, financial strategy, taxes, and the balance between personal and professional life. So really, without further ado, Larry, really want to bring you up, man.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, I think a little bit too much gas there on the bio there. But again, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And anytime we can chat, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah, man. And I guess for those of you who don't know, before I throw some questions on here, I really ask you to tell your story, man. Larry, little known fact, I think Larry, we talked about this, but Larry, when I was coming up and getting recruited by Army football back in the day, Larry was my host on The Visit. And I thought it was the coolest thing. So some would say he's the reason that I went to West Point, and he's literally the reason that I am like here today. So we're all on a thin thread. Because if I would have went to say somewhere else, some of the other schools I'm looking at, I definitely wouldn't be here on a Zoom call with two Dixons on the screen, right? So really outside of that. But Larry, yeah, really, brother, just tell us your story, man. I'd love to kind of hear about like who you are, how you kind of got started.
I guess, like you said, I went to West Point in I guess I'm a professor, so 2010, graduated with a degree in economics. I've always loved math, and I've always loved finance, and I've always loved trying to understand how the world works. And so graduated, second lieutenant, went down to Texas, did a couple rotations, went, Korea, Eastern Europe. That was awesome. And then when we were in Eastern Europe, we were there for maybe 7 days, and we got put on lockdown. We couldn't leave, couldn't do anything. We had somebody leave the base during probation, got drunk. So the colonel's like, hey, like no one's leaving for the next 3 months. And so I was literally trapped in the middle of nowhere, Romania, on an installation that was like a Marine base and a couple Romanian soldiers. And so I was so bored, so desperate to do something, couldn't work out anymore. I literally go to the library. I was like, let me find a book. They have 7 books that are actually in English, and one of the books happened to be an accounting book. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to punish myself. I'm just going to cruise through this. I just found it interesting, right? I think it was, for me, the place where business met math, and then it was like a cool thing for me to dig my teeth into. And so that kind of started the journey. I jumped into a couple accounting Facebook groups, found a really cool mentor, and he kind of just told me, hey, like these are the steps that you're going to want to do. These are steps to take. And so I bought all the books that he said. And so for the rest of that 9-month rotation, I literally just read as much about taxes and accounting as I could. I got home in 2018, and then I just started to find places I could work, right? I was just like, hey, I'll work for free. Let me come do taxes with you. And then in return, you teach me. And so I had a couple people pull me under their wing, again, show me the steps to take, give me the class to take, and then really gave me what I wanted. Was like, hey, like teach me like the applications of the tax world. Because what I knew at that point were like, hey, there's two different tax codes. It's what you know and then what the rich use. And I was like, okay, how do I find out what the quote unquote rich are using? And so we did that. I started my practice in earnest in 2019. Had a couple friends that were like, hey, I'll let you file. And then from there, 2019 through 2022, we really just grew our practice. And then in 2022, I hopped over to Novapoint, and then we've just been growing our practice from there. And then really, as I learned more and more about, the tax aspects of it, where my growth is, where I hope my growth is for the next 10 years is really understanding like, hey, how do I not only make a business tax efficient, but how do we make it grow? So everything I'll be doing from here on out is going to be kind of learning those skill sets and then really narrowing down on that. So that's where I came from, where we've been. And then obviously me and Rich, we met on your recruit trip, but we really bonded and grew obviously on the football team. And then we weren't as good as we are now, but that's where we made our mark.
Man, dang, that's a pretty cool story.
Yo, what position did you play, Larry? What position did you play in football?
I played fullback. Now this is what I'll say. As a fullback, it wasn't the normal fullback in my mind, right? So I didn't line up there and block 80 times a game. We got to run the ball. So we ran triple option offense. So I like to, tell people I spearheaded the triple option offense, but really I just ran straight for a living. So
y'all running the option. Hey, you're heading that.
I have to tell people run the options. Like fullback, and they're like, "Oh, you just blocked the whole time." I was like, "We did a little bit more than blocking."
Right. I mean, running the option. I mean, anybody could get the ball. You know what I mean?
That's again, small claim to fame, but we led the entire NCAA in rushing my sophomore and junior year. So we had some horses back there, and then obviously I played with some tremendous athletes. So again, I was the slow one in the bunch, so it made it easy.
That's a reason why you're a legend, man. Come on, yo.
Larry Legend.
I think a little bit much to say I was a legend per se. What my claim to fame is, I will say, and this is the only story I really tell, is if you go back and you go to the Wall Street Journal during my sophomore year, I was the most hit person in college football. And I thought that was just the coolest thing in the entire world. I was like, listen, I'm willing to sacrifice for the team. And if I got to be a decoy, it's fine. But that's probably the only thing that makes me a legend. That was probably the coolest article ever written on me. And that's the only one that I have in my office hanging up.
Yeah, bro. Honestly, with that, man, if you ever got into politics, you could like reference that as like, I took a hit for this, I'll take a hit for you too, kind of thing.
Listen, I could imagine being a politician. I feel like I have to work for a living. I'm just kidding. But yeah, that would be the story. That would be. I would have it running. You go to my website. That would be the first thing you see. The first hyperlink. We blow it up everywhere we went. And I was just like, I'm willing to sacrifice for the goals of the team. I just feel like that would be great selling point.
I love it, man. So Romania, man, you're in Romania, and there's a freaking accounting book in English just sitting there.
Again, it sounds made up. And my friends didn't believe it. It feels like, no, you ordered this, like you're making this up. It was crazy. The fact that not only that was the accounting book, but one of the few books that was actually in English. And again, we're in the middle of nowhere, Romania. So it's not really like a library, like you're walking around checking books out. It's literally like just a small shanty room in our rec center, right? Rec center is probably 200 square feet. And it was just like a wall of books. And you just go over there, you just kind of look through them and you read, the ones that are going to be there, the Great Gatsby and all the classics, and then some random terrible books I can't even remember. And then you're like, hey, like we're here, like let's really delve in and punish myself. And it just happened to be an accounting book. And again, I've always enjoyed math, so it's always cool to learn a different application of math. It's kind of the only reason I got the West Points, because I can math, because I definitely can't read very well. And so yeah, it's kind of worked. And I've always found that, not that I'm mega spiritual, that I'm looking for a calling, but it's always been interesting to me that like that was the book that laid on. And I've always wanted to serve, as you guys know, as you guys work to do. You want to be of value to people. And I think it's been hard road. It's been difficult to learn at times, but it's really nice to, when someone pulls you aside and say, hey, like, what do you do? Like they realize like, hey, like you can be of service. Right. And so that's kind of been the thing for me, is like, where do I fit in? How can I serve? And it's nice to kind of carve out my place.
Yeah. And really, I guess a question I have with that, man, part of your story is being a military officer as well, too, man. You see a lot of people transition, especially out of the military, have that entrepreneurial mindset. What are some of the, I guess, qualities or traits that you took from both West Point Army football, really, and also, being an Army officer and being able to transition that into the entrepreneurial world?
I think so. From like West Point's cool. I think West Point taught me the thing I take from West Point is like you remember like sophomore year, you take like 26 credit hours. It's a bunch of like topics you'll never learn. Like I don't know why I was in a physics class. I don't know why I was in multivariable calculus. I don't know what I'm doing in lit. I don't know why I was in like this weird French history. But it kind of told you like, hey, like everything you do has a purpose. And it was just learning how to solve different problem sets. And so as I look back on West Point, I like to think that I can be dropped into multiple different situations and extract like, hey, how do I find the answer? I think football is just Coach Monken has blessed me with the ability that no day will be as bad as mat drills at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I don't know if we're grittier per se, but like whenever I'm like, this is a terrible day, I'm just like, this is not the worst day I've ever had. The Army's always it's tough and touch and go because like like you have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, which is kind of like I got to do the next thing, and then you do a lot of different things, and in the Army you really only do one thing regularly, and as soon as you get comfortable, you move. And I think the big thing from the Army is just one meeting and talking to different people. Like you talk to soldiers, and you'll meet someone from the West Coast, the East Coast, South, North. They hate everything you do. They love everything you do. You vibe with people you don't, but you learn how to work together. So it's really nice when I talk to someone. I think I'm really good at finding a common ground, right? Which is when you're talking taxes, no one likes talking about taxes because generally it ends with like you got to send some kind of check to the IRS, and no one likes giving money away. And so it taught me how to just break bread, have a conversation with people. And then two, it's kind of nice where in the Army it's not in an entrepreneurial way, but in every way, shape, or form, they're going to drop you somewhere and they're going to expect you to perform. And so whenever I get uncomfortable with something, it's kind of just falling back on like, hey, like you have the tools, like let's figure out what we need and what's the best way to do it. And in the Army, whenever I got to do something new, right? Like I go be an XO, go be a PL, an FSO. I would just try to ask them, I'm like, hey, like who's the smartest person doing this job? And then they would find, they would introduce me like, hey, like go talk to this person, this person, this person. Cool. You go talk to those 3 people. And then you're like, hey, who's the like, who do you know that does this job really well? And then they introduce you to someone. And then eventually after talking to 3, 4, 5 people, you realize you've talked to all the subject matter experts. And then you're like, hey, okay, let me distill down what they taught me. And so that's in business. That's what I do. Like if I have a new tax subject that I don't know, I just kind of reach out to my network, like, hey, who do we know that does this really well? Like we have a company right now, fairly new, but they do things internationally, right? So just getting to understand foreign corporations, it's a complicated subject because it's just I feel like the IRS makes it overly complicated, but there's a lot to it. And so just leaning back on the Army, just asking like, hey, who's the best person doing this, interviewing, talking to them, and then distilling it down. I think that it's allowed me to work in more complicated subject matters, which is interesting to me, and then kind of progress my knowledge a little bit more.
Yeah, man. And I think a lot of the stuff you said over there, you kind of went over it really quickly, but it's so important, right? You talked about really the concept of really who, not how, as opposed to trying to go out there. Because I mean, as we know, most things in life, you don't need to go out there and reinvent the wheel. There's somebody out there who has done it before, and I really like that approach to with any new position you got, with anything you have under you that you don't necessarily understand. You went out there and figured it out and asked about it, right? And we're kind of vulnerable with it. So a lot of folks, they're kind of almost embarrassed. I mean, you see it, the new folks in new jobs. It's like, I want to look like I have the experience when you're not necessarily supposed to have the experience. Nobody expects you to, but we set these expectations on ourselves to where we want to almost look the part, but don't look the part, and they end up looking kind of stupid kind of later. And I think that that's very key to achieving, really getting to a point, or really where you're getting where you want to go a lot faster. By focusing on who can I go to who has already done this, as opposed to trying to reinvent it myself. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think again, I think it's one of the things if I were to compliment stuff that I do well is I'm very comfortable not being the smartest person in the room. I think like you've seen at West, like I remember going to West Point and I was struggling with physics, and my plebe that was in charge of literally was in the same physics class I was and had like 97%. I had like a C+. And I would just I think got enough humility to ask him to tutor me. So it's really weird when, the person you're supposed to be in charge of that I'm supposed to be developing is literally giving me physics lessons and pulling me through. And I've always been comfortable like, hey, you're not the smartest person in the room. It's never going to be that way. So like, let's start asking some good questions. And in my mind, you have to ask the really, really stupid questions in order to get to the good question, right? Like, again, Coach Munkin, the coaching staff, Coach Saturnio, we're just really good at saying like, hey, like, this is a really dumb question. But on the back of that, I would get to the like, this is the question that we need to be at. And so I just feel like, and again, something you do really well. And I remember when we were first talking, you're like, hey, like I'm gonna wholesale. And like the first time we talked, you're like, hey, like I don't know what we're gonna do, but like we kind of got this. I got some deals under there. And then the next time it's just like you got so much better in such a short period of time, literally 6 months from when we first talked to when we filed your taxes. I'm just like, you're doing the same thing. And I think that's kind of the big takeaway is like if you do something new, especially if you do it in a entrepreneurship way where you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this by myself. All you can do is work as hard as you can and just not be afraid to look down because nobody like there's only one Warren Buffett, right? Like there's only one person who's the best, right? So everybody else is learning.
Yeah, man. And that's dope, man. And I heard this, I was listening to a talk, I want to say a few weeks back, forgot who it was. So don't get mad at me, but it was a billionaire speaking and somebody had asked him and interviewed him and like, what do you think separates you from everybody else? You've been able to achieve X, Y, Z. And he says he will go out. If he has a thought in his head, he will go act on it and go fail 3 times before somebody has even gotten started. And that is what separated him from, everybody else. And that's something that kind of resonated with me. And that's just something that you're saying, literally saying right now in a different ways. You just got to go out there, fail, and don't mind looking stupid in the short term. So that way you can set yourself up for the long term. So that is awesome. And really, I've been talking too much. Let me pass it over to Kevin, man. I know you got some questions, brother.
Nah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, Larry, I mean, you're a tax guy, you're a numbers guy. People hate paying taxes, right? People hate paying taxes. We're entrepreneurs, so we save a little bit on taxes, but in your view and your lane, what do you think is the best way, like, to save on your tax liability? I mean, like, I look at multifamily, cash flow, and leverage a lot every day. For people who are out there looking and watching this podcast right now, like, what advice would you give them to help lower their tax liability?
So I think with every single person, this is what we started kind of teaching our team, right? Like whenever we talk to a client, we ask them really 3 base steps. Like first thing, what do you want to do in 5 years? I think if you want to save money on taxes, it sounds counterintuitive. You have to know, you at least have to have a plan for the next 5 years. I think at least, right? At least a couple of years out, because you want to be able to see what am I comfortable doing and where do I not want to go? Because the number one rule of saving on taxes is planning, track, then plan, right? Plan, track, plan. After that, my job is to get creativity and control, right? So once you start understanding like, hey, this is where I want to be, then you have to understand what am I willing to do? What pieces are on the board for me, right? And this is where I tell people it doesn't have to be me, but I would find someone who understands taxes, a tax strategist, someone who has their hands in it, and then have them help you elicit what tools you have that I can be creative and control, right? You're in real estate, you're in the best place ever. And so if you come to me, you're like, hey, I know I'm about to be in real estate for the next couple of years. I know right now we need to delve in like, hey, what's in your pipeline? What are you going to look at? And then we can start stacking on any kind of tax strategies, whether it's a very low hanging tax strategy where we're going to really look at what you're going to rehab, or if we do a more advanced tax strategy where we're going to look at a short terminal loophole and exception, and then use that with a cost segregation to pay $0 in taxes. I can't do any of those recommending. One, if you're waiting until you filed your taxes to talk to me. And then 2, if I don't know where you want to be, because where people are getting messed up is they're not planning. They're looking for creative tools, and then they're building a problem that they just have to unwind. It's going to cost them down the line. And then after you understand, this is what I want to do in 5 years, and then you're going to meet proactively with your tax professional to understand what tools and what creativity you can employ. Then we get to like, hey, how do we make you as tax efficient as possible? And whenever we start with tax efficiency, after we have a good plan, it's always, always, always knowing your numbers, right? Like, in business, I know if I make this many calls, I'm going to get this many properties. Where I see people, real estate professionals in your world, where they lack is like, hey, how much money have you spent this week on X property, right? We want to track and measure everything. What gets measured, what's it called? Oh my God, I forgot the quote right there that I always say it. Anyways, if you measure it, you'll pay attention to it. If you're not measuring it, you're not paying attention to it. And that's when things start to leak. If you don't know how much you spent, how am I going to employ extra tax strategies for you, right? So you got to always know what's coming in and you got to always know what's going out the door. So that's kind of our triangle that we talk through. What's your future plan? What tools do you have at your disposal? Do you have a W-2? Do you have an LLC? Are you in real estate? Are you an agent? Are you starting a company? And then lastly, tax efficiency, right? It's just prior preparation is going to be everything in the tax world. And then lastly, the last caveat there, the reason why you want to find a trusted tax professional is the tax code is changing, right? Like even though in 2017, the tax code came through, in 2022, 2023, they updated with the IRA, right? The CARES Act, everything's changing. And then in this year, the whole tax code as we know it is going to get updated and everything's going to may not change as much as it's going to be updated. So having those regular meetings, and it doesn't have to be every week. I'm not asking you guys to spend a ton with your tax professional, but every quarter, at least twice a year, you want to reach out and figure out like, hey, am I in the right place? And then two, you got to update me on the plan. I can't tell you how frustrating and sad it is when I talk to a client in June. I'm like, hey, we got a good plan. And then we come back in October and everything's changing. They switched jobs. They had another kid. They bought a property. I'm just like, how I can't help you here. Like you didn't give me any time to plan or just to look at things. And so just that proactive planning is everything.
Yeah. I know you mentioned cost segregation. I talk to my investors a lot about cost segregation. Can you give those folks a good, I guess, definition of what cost segregation is and how it helps investors lower their tax liability?
Absolutely. So cost segs, I love real estate, right? Like I like my clients to be in there when they're ready. I like to be in real estate. The easiest way that I found to understand cost segregation is anytime you buy a piece of property, you're going to allow you to depreciate the property. And all depreciation means is you take a little bit of the cost of that property as an expense or subtraction from your rental income over time. What a cost seg does is it takes the house that you have and like a Lego set, takes that massive built home and breaks it out to its little pieces. So it's not just a house, it's your windows, it's your floor, it's your fixtures, it's your cabinets, it's the flooring, right? It's everything, it's the paint job. And then you break it out into those itty little bitty pieces. And then what you find is that like my windows, they're not depreciated or expensed or taking a loss, those paper losses over 7 years or over 27 years, you take it over 7 years, right? The cabinets aren't over 27 years, they're over 5 years. And so what we have, instead of waiting to take those paper losses or losses that you don't have to spend money for over 27.5 years, you can take more of those up front over 3, 5, 7 years. And then the super crazy thing, and what will really be crazy if this new, once this new tax bill gets passed, if it gets passed, is that if the depreciation length is 20 years or less, you can take all of that today. So what we find with clients is they'll buy in a multifamily for $600,000. It'll be a 4-unit. And then they'll be like, hey, like, can we cost seg it? And so instead of taking that $600,000 over 27.5 years, they'll be like, oh, hey, wait, you can take about a fourth to a third of that today. And so you'll take $150,000 or $200,000 loss today. It will be 60%, right? But if it's updated, you'll get 100% of that. So you get a $200,000 loss today. And then people look at their income like, oh, wait, how much tax savings is this? And so that's where it's powerful. And this is part of planning. If you buy a property, don't tell your accountant that you bought a property. How are they going to help you look to see if the cost is good for you or if there's tax savings that you don't have to pay out of pocket for, which makes it so powerful. And so you could put and this is my favorite, and this is the last thing I'll say, is we'll have clients put 5 to 20% down, secure the house, do a cost seg, and then pull that money right back out to duplicate that same thing. And that's where it becomes powerful. And that's where you see really adept real estate professionals go from 1 to 2 properties to 12 to 16 so quickly. It's partially, obviously, their due diligence, their effort. Like I'm not sourcing deals, but at the same time, they're pairing that up with great planning and then using a tax code to your benefit. The IRS wants you to acquire as many assets as possible because people think like the IRS is out for my money. You got to think of your IRS as your business partner. They want you to be rich so you can give them more money. And so if everybody's rich, they make more money. And so you got to use the tools that they have at your disposal in order to get to the point where you're acquiring those assets. And then that's how your assets can help you acquire more assets.
Man, that's amazing. That might be the best cost segregation answer I've ever heard in my life. Like, I talk to my investors about that all the time, right? Because we deal with a lot of doctors and lawyers and engineers and stuff like that, right? So they all make great money. And they all have the same problem, which is a high tax liability, because in America, the more money, the higher your tax liability goes, right?
Exactly.
So just hearing that is amazing, man. So the next thing I would say, well, people always say, well, Warren Buffett pays less taxes than his secretary does, his secretary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to them again? I know this goes along with cost segregation, but how is that even possible for Warren Buffett, the billionaire, the smartest investor in the world, pay less taxes than his?
And see, this is, again, it's beautiful. And this is where what the coolest thing about what Warren Buffett does is two things. One, he tells you exactly the game plan. Like, he'll tell you exactly what he's doing, how he's doing it, and how you could copy it. And then two, like you realize, like, hey, like, he's giving the playbook. Like, I can do exactly what Warren Buffett's doing.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is, obviously, he's sending more taxes over. So let's be honest, like, he's paying more in taxes. But when you compare it to his net worth, it seems minuscule, right? So how do you have a Warren Buffett, an Elon Musk, all these CEOs, billionaires, not paying anything in taxes? And it's because what they're doing is they're getting with their tax professional, and then they're leveraging the tax code, right? And so Warren Buffett, the reason why he's winning is he doesn't have a high salary, right? He's looking like, what's the most efficient way for me to receive money? And so what he's doing is one of two things. He's leveraging his assets. So he gets something, it grows in value. He goes to a bank and says, I want to borrow the money from you, and we'll secure it against my assets. And so he gets to take a loan, and the loan, he pays interest on it, right? And we can go over how he pays the interest, but he'll pay the interest on it. But now he has money, and he has it. They're not going to, the IRS won't tax it because he's not making money. He took out a loan. In the same way we take out a mortgage for our house, they're not coming for taxes whenever I took out a mortgage for my house. Same thing for him. Instead of a house, he's leveraging his assets. And then the second thing is he's looking at what's the most efficient way for me to receive income. So instead of receiving a salary, a W-2 salary or business income, which is the most expensive way to receive money, he's receiving qualified dividends, which is taxed at the long-term capital gains rate, which is now being taxed at 15% or 20%, as opposed to the marginal tax rate, where the average marginal tax rate in America right now is 22 to 24%. And so now he has already a savings there. And then he's layering on with another tax strategy where if his corporation owns shares of another corporation, then a portion of the dividends he receives, he doesn't have to pay taxes on, right? So he's levering the tax code for his benefit. And so when he receives this money, again, it's not that it's tax-free, and that's why we always say it's tax efficient.
Right.
And then you have, Elon Musk, who's just creating something. He creates a business, and then he borrows against this business. So when he went to acquire Twitter, which is now X, he went to use other people's money to buy it. So he came out of pocket for limited money, because he did technically eventually sell some of his stock, what's it called? He exercised some of his stock, so he did pay taxes. But initially, he wasn't going to pay any taxes because he's just leveraging his assets. And so that's the other aspect of assets, is it gives you control, and it allows you to choose or give you creativity and control on how you receive money, sometimes to get money faster, but then also to get money cheaper with interest rate, but also tax efficiency, paying less in taxes.
Wow, man. So is it true that if you have more employees, you pay less taxes?
Yes. If you have employees, because every time, again, I tell people all the time, I pay for my friends, because every time you pay them, it's a tax deduction. So yes, in a world, he's paying less because he's paying his employees. But again, I guarantee you, everything he's doing, he's looking for that tax efficiency. And so every dollar he has going out the door for his travel, well, I won't say every dollar, the majority of his dollars that he has going out the door are for travel, are tax deductible. For food, tax deductible, because he's attaching those to business activities, and he's future planning, so that he has the substantiation, the record keeping to make that above board. Because again, the IRS absolutely wants your money, but they are telling you in the tax code, black and white, that, hey, we have some carve outs here so you can have the gain, because they understand if they allow you to grow, then they will get more in the back end. Elon Musk, the best example, wasn't paying taxes, sure, for a couple of years, exercised the option, paid $11 billion in taxes. So they missed out on a couple of years of making $300,000, $400,000 in taxes. Then they got their $11 billion payday. They said, hey, Elon, we will allow you to invest in your business. We will allow you to grow, because they know on the back end, they will get more return. And so, which is why, again, plan, meet with your tax professionals, because everything you do there, I guarantee you there is an incentive structure around you to make it more efficient, understanding that your business partner that you have no say in, the IRS will get their cut, will allow you to do things aligned with, if you align with them, to save some money or to make more money in the future.
Larry, you might be my cousin for real, yo.
Oh,
Yes, sir, man. I love to hear that, man. I love to hear that game, yo. I mean, it's right there, man, and most of us don't take advantage of it. So, man,
and
I love to hear it, man.
again, and the only reason you wouldn't take advantage of it is because you don't know, right? Like I said, even if it's reading books, I think everybody just needs to spend some amount of time. Because again, as I tell all my clients, like the business partner you never get rid of. Like, listen, you can be married, you can be single, you can be divorced. The person who's always going to get a cut, who's always going to have the cup out for their cut, is going to be the IRS, right? And if you don't pay them, right, like Al Capone didn't go for racketeering, he didn't go for killing people, he didn't go for smuggling, prohibition. He went because he didn't pay his taxes, right? They are the business partner that gets the cut, and that's what if Al Capone can get away with literally everything except paying his taxes, let's pay our taxes.
Right. Nah, that's sweet right there, man. I mean, that's the game right there, man. I mean, in this call right now.
Hey, but we not though. But we not we got a smooth 25 more minutes with Larry. So we go.
Yes, sir.
But,
I mean, but that's amazing though, man. I mean, because so many of us don't take advantage of that, right? And we're mostly working our 40-hour week job, and they're just taking taxes out before we even get our money. And we don't even think about the tax code or tax breaks or the loopholes that are, right there in front of our face.
100%. And sometimes it's if you don't know, you'll never win. And sometimes knowing, you won't win. Like we have clients, they're like, hey, I want to do the Airbnb short-term loophole, right? I'm like, hey, you're not a good candidate. I'm not going to set you up to get audited. But like that conversation, he now is armed with everything he needs to either fix his situation, or 2 to 3 years down the line where it does make sense, he can initially act on it, right? And you guys know, especially because you guys do the craziest thing in the entire world. You guys literally sift through data and you guys are looking for deals. I think looking for real estate deals is the hardest thing to do, because what's a good deal? As soon as you find a good deal, you meet the craziest person in the world where there's like, hey, like we're never selling this because I like losing money. And I'm just like, it's insane. It's insane. And if you are armed with more knowledge, you can make better decisions at the moment of buying, right? And so with our clients, if you tell me, if we hop on a call and you say, hey, I'm thinking about buying a property, I will almost instantaneously say, let's look at a cost setting, not pay for one, right? So we pull down some examples to see what could the property be. So before they ever buy the property, they can understand what would my tax savings be. And I just want to give them more information to make the best decision for them. Because again, I get no commissions. I'm not a real estate agent. Nothing. I literally just want to send the least amount of money to the IRS, understanding that they're going to get something.
Man, that's $1 million worth of game right there, man. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, Rick, let's be honest. This is $1 million worth of game right here in this podcast. So, man, I'm loving it right now, Larry. Keep preaching, brother.
And the crazy thing about it too, it's all free. We ain't charging nothing. Everybody, you just show up, you get it, man. And I guess everything you said there is crazy. Now I'm over here jotting some notes as well too, man. And I'll be asking you more stuff at a later time in general. But as you know, as I do, but really, I mean, a lot of our audience, man, are people who are either looking to get into real estate or people who are in it and are kind of some in the earlier phases. What are some? I don't want to dive too much into corporate structure, but for people out there who are new into real estate and looking to acquire a couple of houses, what do you recommend is a good way as a base to kind of set that up? And I know it may change person to person, but people buying single family homes, what do you believe is a good way? Is it setting up just an LLC? Are you setting up a holding company with another LLCs in it? What do you kind of propose based on your experience?
So it's my thing. Let me tell you my rule that I tell my clients. Rule number one is get the asset. The rule number one is get the asset. I think the biggest mistake I see is people are so worried about being sued. And I know being sued is a big thing, right? Like I don't want anyone to get sued and I'm all about protecting myself. But people spend too much time trying to get to the perfect structure and they miss out on the asset. So in my mind, if the asset passes all your other due diligence, right? Like obviously don't buy a bad property, but if you're running your numbers and it's good property, buy the property. In the tax world, there is no difference in the IRS between an LLC and a non-LLC, right? So all the same tax incentives that come from doing the cost that exist if you have the property in an LLC or if you own the property in your name. So from that standpoint, it's fine. LLCs, and I'm not a lawyer, right? Yet, down the barrel, I will be, but I'm not a lawyer yet. And so it's tough to be on like a liability thing, right? What I tell clients, but if they're like, hey, I haven't met with a lawyer, it's all about risk. If you're very risk averse, you probably want an LLC. If you're not as risk averse, you may not need an LLC if the asset value's down, right? And so I think the priority should be on buying the property, but that brings me to my point. When you're planning, build out a team, right? Lawyers are expensive. I know lawyers are expensive. Every time I meet with a lawyer, I hate it because it's so expensive. They charge you for everything. They're like, hey, I sneezed when we were having a conversation. That's an extra $45. I was like, that's crazy. Like, how do I bill like this? But I think you need to build a team. You need to find a lawyer who's knowledgeable, right? And like, not all lawyers are cut the same. Like, not to ever bash on a lawyer, but some of them are ambulance chasers, right? They literally are just like, hey, I'm going to help you file your claim. You want to look for like someone who has their hands as an operator in real estate because they know things, not just how to protect you, but how to hide everything. I think where a lawyer really makes his way is how they protect you and make it hard to discover you. Because when you have a business, like I advertise all the time, I love people to know, yes, we do taxes. Come talk to me. Let's do some business. But I don't want people to know how much I have in assets. That's how you get the weirdos around, snoop around. You don't want someone to know how much property you have. So that's where you'll really make your bones with a real estate lawyer, is how they're protecting you and how they're helping you hide it. But as far as which one do I like, buy the property first. There is no perfect structure. If you piss off Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Warren Buffett, they have the money and resources. They will find whatever you do and they will try to get after whatever you do, right? So there's no perfect structure there. But then again, I do want to be like, there is a limitation. I'm not a lawyer yet, so I don't know how to protect against liability. So like, is the LLC perfect? I know it allows you to prevent, or it allows you to be protect your risks better than not having one, right? But for a tax perspective, especially if you're in an LLC, there is no difference. There is no difference. The IRS doesn't even recognize the LLC, right? But I think to the last point is like, should you have a holding or a corporate structure? I think there is a world where the corporate structure does work, right? Where I don't tell a lot of clients to go to a C Corp, but there's ways where you can run everything through a C Corp. And then again, receiving that money from the C Corp, you take a literal 20% haircut in as a tax deduction before we ever calculate your taxes, right? So that's where I want to see future planning, and I want to give you like, what creativity can we do to meet your goals, right? And so that's my thoughts on there. It's the most on the fence non-answer ever. I completely acknowledge that, but I just the LLC question is hilarious to me because one, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't answer it, and no accountant can answer it specifically if they're not a lawyer. But then two, I think buying an asset, making money, then go meet with a lawyer, and then kind of protect yourself around that is the best way to go.
Bro, 100%. I think that's fair too. The reason I say that is I see a lot of, I guess, the new hotness, always ebbs and flows with the new hottest thing. One of the things I've seen a lot of is people going out and they are starting, getting trust, and they are doing, trying to buy assets within their trust and all that kind of stuff. Looking at more so like how the Rockefellers did it. So people are trying to do more things like that, whether it's going out and getting whole life policies or doing stuff like that. So that was kind of the basis of the question around that piece. But I don't know if that's more so still a lawyer question, or is that more, tax, or kind of a mix of the few?
It'd always be a mix. So we sit, and not a Rockefeller trust, but we sit in on trust conversations and it's part of the creativity and control, right? I think the hard part with the trusts they do work, they are effective, and people all need them, right? That's me just recommending like, hey, like, I'm going to help you your finances. Like, it's going to end in a trust and protection. Though what I like to get in front of before we get to the trust working is we don't want to make the thing more complicated before we execute the play, right? And what as I tell stories to my clients, is the triangle offense is the greatest offense. It's propelled two of the greatest players that we've ever seen, right? Kobe and Michael Jordan, right? How we rate them, I'm a Michael guy. He's number one. Doesn't matter. But the triangle offense at its core is a very simple play, right? And then what do? They add things to it. It's a play designed for three people, and they have the other two people rotating around it. And no matter where they go, they try to find the triangle. And so what I try to impart on people is, yes, these things do work, but if we look at Rockefeller, before he ever designed this beautiful trust, but before he ever designed this, he had a play that generated money, right? So I just like to get in front of it where I think it's the cart before the horse. The goal is to do that thing first, create the thing, and then the trust comes into play. I think, again, as you create something, it ends in a trust. I think people are making the mistake to start with the trust, and then you're out. Literally, if you do a Rockefeller trust by a really good lawyer, I'll be transparent, you're looking at $50,000. Like we've seen one set up, we've seen the invoice come out. It's like 50,000, maybe more, depending on the complexity. But if you ask me for $50,000, we are not. I'm not the guy, right? But like when you've done the thing and you have $100 million in assets and you have that $1 million residual income coming in, when someone says it's $50,000 to design this, $100,000, you're not blinking. And so those things matter. You should be educated on them. I do think everyone needs a trust. That being said, I don't want you to be so cute in the play design, right, that you forget to make sure the play works, right? Go make your money, build the team as you go, and then that's where you come in behind that, right? And we do the structuring setup, but I can't tell you how many people that rushed, paid these lawyer fees, and now I'm like, hey, like this does not make financial sense, one, and two, it doesn't make tax sense, right? Because you're not saying, what do I want to do in the future? What tools do I have on the board? And then creating the tax efficiency, and then obviously your cash flow efficiency around that.
Man, so yeah, I think that's awesome, man. So it's kind of like go out there, take action, you know, and then you can fix a lot of the things on the back, and a lot of stuff is fixable or solvable.
If you, as I've seen it, as I try doing business, I try to treat people the right way and try to go as fast as possible. Because where people have been smarter than me, I generally am pushing harder, and so I get there anyways. And then most things, right, you can fix, touch up, and create on the back end. But then two, you know what it looks like on the back end, right? Like if I if I try to create all these things for my real estate holdings, and then I get there and I'm like, hey, like I have all my money in stocks. Well, the structure doesn't work. And so people are trying to do these super elaborate, great plans, paying these fees. They get there and like, hey, I hate this, right? Especially like in starting a business, like you started a business and you've hated it and then you quit. I started trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to train people in the gym. And then I found out I hate training people in the gym. So it would have been terrible to build a plan around because like I like to work out by myself. And so I tell people like, just go taste it, go fail, get punched in the mouth, and then let's do it. Because the hard facts are you're not going 0 to $25 million. It generally goes in steps. You go 0, 20,000, then 100,000, then 200,000, right? Then $50,000 a month. And then you're like, hey, like we like this. You're good at it. Let's keep going. Like that's my thing, right? I just feel like I love those things. We talk about those things, and I'm obviously happy to answer more questions. But I think the biggest takeaway is go get a proof of concept, right? Real estate's my favorite. People are like, I'm going to get 100 properties. I'm like, great, let's do it. Then they try to get the first property, like, hey, I hate managing properties. I don't ever want to be in real estate again. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's great. Let's get out of it then. Let's do it. I want to be in Airbnbs. Oh, I hate Airbnbs because people are always calling me. Let's do long-term rentals. And so the plan will change. And I think you guys have seen it as you've learned and then perfected your investing strategy. Where you started is not where you're at. And if you would have tried, like, look back to you starting, you're like, hey, if I would have tried to take this to $1 million, like you would punch that kid in the face. You'd be like, hey, like, what are you doing? And so that's my thing there. It matters. Build your team, but always, always, always act and do first.
I love that. And I'm glad you said that because I feel like a lot of us get mundane with that, right? Like shiny object syndrome. You know, what is the new hottest thing? Let me go do that because we see people who are in various higher places than we are doing it. So we think that's going to be the key that gets us there. When in reality, you need to take action first. You need to go fail first. You need to go get a little bit of experience, go get a little bit of dirt under the nails before you actually try to implement all these fancy strategies. And I think that's awesome. And so true, man. So true.
I think you'll see it.
Advice, man. I mean, like a lot of us, you know, the same 50,000 that would, you know, get that trust going. I mean, you can buy 2 or 3 properties for that 50,000 and start making that money twerk instead of, you know, getting that trust. And then what? You know what I mean? You don't even have nothing to show for it. So, I mean, that's good word, man. And, you know, because I thought about trust quite a bit and, you know, but you saying what you said tonight, it puts it in perspective. So definitely appreciate that.
No, again, I think I've been blessed to be in rooms with just really people doing really cool things. And every time I talk to someone, right, who's really good at sports, really good as an accountant, really good as a lawyer, I'm always shocked to see, like, what's your secret sauce? They're just doing the basics more often. Like, I have a client, millions of followers on social media, literally makes their whole living on social media. And obviously I've tried to do social media. I'm just like, what are you doing different? Like, what's the algorithm? I'm like, what songs are you using? There's like, we just put out content every single day. I was just like, how do you know it's good? How you rate it? They're like, we put out content every single day and we try to do something a little bit better every single day. But like, they're not doing anything fancy. They're not doing anything cool. They're doing the basics, which is do it every single day. And as you make more money, you have more money to put into it, right? So then they can start buying supplies. But like, when they lived in their parents' basement, like, they were just making content, right? And if you look at one of my favorite athletes ever, Tom Brady, LeBron James, like all the athletes that I revere, every time you see them, what do they talk? They just talk the basics, right? Every time I go lift with big people, they warm up, right? I'm out here trying to Olympic lift. I'm like, okay, like walk me through like how you hitting this 400 pound. Oh, it's the warm up. We're stretching for 35. It's always the basics, right? And no matter what we do, we block, we tackle, right? Like, I think that's just what I can impart on people, especially like Rich just said, like the shiny object syndrome. There's always going to be someone doing something cooler, right? Like, there's absolutely accountants that run bigger practices that work with larger clients, but like, and I might get attracted to like, oh, like I need to do it like this. But as I meet with them, as I, peel back the layers, oh, like you're just doing the basics on with more volume with more clients, right? And so that's the thing, right? Like, especially with real estate, like there is no substitution for going out and acquiring properties. And you've seen it in multifamily. You probably talk to people where they get up, they have great slideology, they got this great PowerPoint, everything looks good, they're talking perfect. You're like, great. And then you're like, how many properties, how many doors you got? And they're like, oh, I just closed on my first one last week after 10 years. You'd be like, you're not a failure, but like, are you an expert in what you're doing, right? Are you really cutting your teeth? And then you'll see where things come up, right? Because again, unfortunately, one of the best ways to learn is either get punched in the mouth or have your friend get punched in the mouth and you get to learn from them. And so that's where that's where you learn where your gaps are.
Yeah, buddy. Gotta go out there and get burned first, bro. You gotta throw yourself out there, man. Take that risk and come back to it after you mess it up. You know what I mean?
Again,
only way you
the
go.
Best way.
Yeah, I tell my daughter that, man. Because kids, you guys got young kids, but as they get older, they it's about perfection, right? School teaches how to be perfect and don't make any mistakes on your test. And it's like, I'm telling my daughter now, it's okay to make mistakes, right? That's the only way you learn. And like, you should be happy when, not too happy when you make mistakes. But at the end of the day, it's no different than a baby walking. You know what I mean? They get up, fall down, and they start walking. You know what I mean? So you have to make those mistakes in order to grow. So, hey, man, I'm all in for it, bro.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I couldn't say it better myself. I just feel like and I'm sure we all agree on school that like they're trying to teach you to be a worker, but like we constantly make mistakes in all facets. I made it in West Point, on the football field, the Army, as an accountant. I'm sure probably does as a dad, right? But I just feel like mistakes. I don't know when it became this way, but people are like, oh, if I made a mistake, I failed. It's just like if you get another rep and you wake up again, right? Just do a little bit better. Just don't make the same mistake again. It's just a learning opportunity. And it sounds cliche, but like, again, that's the best way I think we can learn, but you can't make any mistakes if you don't do anything.
Exactly, man. It's like we were raised, most of us as human beings, we were raised that, failure was the opposite of success, but really in actuality, it's just a part of it. You know what I mean? So like at the end of the day, man, I try to strive to make mistakes, man. The more mistakes I make, the more I'm going to grow. And, I want to limit those mistakes. But at the end of the day, if I don't take that risk and I don't jump out there, then how am I going to learn? And how am I going to scale? How am I going to be wealthy?
Exactly. And that's business. Like, it's fun. It's terrible. I hate it and love it at the same time. I'm equally going to quit and trying to expand my business every single day. Every day I'm just like, we're done with this. It's because it's awful. I'm just like, oh, okay, that's just what we're doing. Can't wait to do it again tomorrow.
Right. Hey, that's life, man, in a nutshell.
Yeah, man. Bro, last question I got for you, really, man, I'm thinking of is the folks listening out there. I know people are definitely going to reach out now about wanting to get into, I guess, taxes or learn a little bit about taxes, do you have, a short book list, maybe like 1 to 2 books that if I want to look into, learning more about the tax code and learning more about taxes, do you have any books you'd recommend?
So the best book to start off, and this is how I kind of approach everything, right? It doesn't have to be a book, it could be YouTube.
Yeah.
But basically learn a little bit, go meet with the professional. Mark Kohler, right? He has 2 books, the legal playbook, which kind of talks through almost every kind of structure out there as far as how you organize your business and what are the low level tax incentives are.
Yeah.
And then what your CPA isn't telling you, right? I think those are the 2 best books to get you started. It lets you know, like, hey, how do I find the accountant, the CPA, the EA that works for me, right? And then how do I scrub those? And then what kind of quiz questions can you ask, right? Like if you sit down with a CPA accountant, EA, like, hey, like I'm looking about employing a cost segregation, like how do you think I do it? Any accountant that works in real estate is going to rattle off at least their strategy around them, when to employ them, when not, right? If they look at you and they go glossy-eyed and they don't know what you're talking about, then that doesn't work, right? So what your CPA isn't telling you starts to teach you how to quiz your questions to ask your accountant to figure out if you're a good fit. And then Mark Kohler's the legal, I don't know if it's playbook or handbook, but that one takes you through literally all the structures out there, the COPE structure, what OJ Simpson did, how he still got to be rich, even though he got sued for everything, the S Corps, the C Corps, the LLCs, the Series L, everything out there, a smorgasbord. So you can be like, okay, hey, like I understand. And then when you start talking to the professionals, right, the people who apply it day in, day out there, Mark Kohler also has a plethora of YouTube that I think is sensational. It's a great start. It's not always perfect because it's very general because it's YouTube, but he has every topic on there that again is going to start so you can have better conversations with your accountant, with your lawyer, with your intern, right? And so that's where I think we should start. And then obviously we can go more, but I think he's tremendous in my growth. He was great when I met him. He's taught me a tremendous amount. He poured into me at a level, right, when I was just scrub going up. So I can't say that enough. Mark Kohler is tremendous.
Awesome, man. And I guess really last thing actually is, man, how can people, I guess, follow what you're doing? How can people get in contact with you? People are looking to, I guess, really talk to more tax professionals about some of the things we're doing. How can they get in contact with you, man?
I'm literally Larry the Tax Guy. I probably should have put my @ in the bar. Every single place you can send out a DM. I'm on TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere. If you go on TikTok and you search the most popular tax videos, you'll literally see me answering people's questions. I love talking about taxes. So if I spare time, I'm chilling, I'm in transit, I like to just interact with people, right? People I don't know, they don't know me, but I love the game of taxes and I always want to pique people's interest. So Larry the Tax Guy everywhere. And then obviously we'll throw all my information in the bio. Feel free to reach out and we're happy to help. We help people in all 50 states. And so we're happy to help however we can.
Awesome, man. I think that pretty much wraps it up, man. Larry, bro. Yeah, this was awesome, man. Damn, this was awesome, man. Yeah, no, thank you so much, man, for hopping on and I guess imparting wisdom. I learned something new, which is awesome. Yeah, I learned a lot new, and I talked to you. I think I talked to you a decent amount. I learned something new. Man, this is awesome.
No, again, we're getting more tools in the arsenal. Guys, I appreciate you having me. I love to do it whenever you guys want me on. And whenever you have me, I'll be on. So thank you so much.
Awesome, brother. Well, all right, folks, man. Hope y'all enjoyed this first off. This is freaking amazing. Please, if y'all want to contact Larry, please check the link in the bio. I will add it. But outside of that, man, hey, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Peace. $1 million worth of game.
There we go.